Have you ever wondered what would happen if you accidentally touched Mars without a space suit? And how long it would take for a spacecraft to arrive there? Well, we have the answers to these questions and many more in today's video. So stay tuned till the end. What would happen if you touched Mars without a suit? Touching the red planet could be deadly. Scientists believe that Mars was once covered in oceans of liquid water and had an atmosphere like Earth's. However, over billions of years, most of the water has frozen or turned to vapor and escaped into outer space. Therefore, if you decided to touch the surface of Mars without a spacesuit, you would die within 30 seconds from a lack of oxygen. Plus, temperatures on Mars range from minus 225 degrees Fahrenheit to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, with an average of minus 81 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature is much colder than here on Earth, so your body would start freezing almost immediately. On top of this, the atmospheric pressure on Mars is 6.1 millibars, which is 90 times less than the Earth's atmosphere. As a result, the air would get out of your lungs faster than you can breathe. And although Mars is rich in minerals, carbon dioxide, iron oxide, and other substances, none of them will help you survive. They won't even make you feel better. This is why Mars might be humanity's second home. Mars has been chosen by scientists as the second planet where humans can be sent after the Moon. In fact, SpaceX plans to colonize Mars and make it the first extraterrestrial city. Elon Musk believes that the threat of a large asteroid or supernova explosion could wipe out life on Earth, and the future of humanity depends on the creation of settlements outside our planet. And although Mars doesn't have enough resources to sustain life on its own, it could support human settlements. In addition, NASA believes that Mars might have once been similar to Earth and hosted microbial life. But if we can't find any aliens on the red planet, we can always terraform it, meaning we can change Mars' atmosphere, temperature, and environment to make it suitable for humans. How long would it take to get to Mars? According to NASA, the shortest time it would take to get to Mars is 260 days, but it's more realistic to expect a voyage lasting over 400 days. For example, in 2026, NASA plans to launch the first crewed mission to Mars with the Space Launch System rocket. It'll take 5 months to get to the planet, and before landing, astronauts will have to fly around Mars for 2 weeks to check if the chosen area is safe. Of course, travel time depends on the flight path and when a rocket is launched. For example, if a spacecraft leaves Earth when Mars is far away, the journey will take longer. To calculate the travel time, scientists use the Hohmann transfer orbit, which allows you to determine the most fuel-efficient trajectory. Also, we should consider that when planning a flight to Mars, a spaceship cannot move straight because it needs to gain enough speed to reach the planet's orbit. This means that the spacecraft will have to fly around Earth several times to accelerate. Can humans really survive on Mars? The truth? As we've already mentioned, the atmosphere of Mars consists mainly of carbon dioxide. And if somehow you could filter it and remove 95% of carbon dioxide, you still wouldn't be able to breathe there because Mars' atmosphere also lacks sufficient pressure and partial pressure of oxygen. In addition, cosmic rays and solar winds pose a serious danger to humans on Mars, as well as on any other planet without a protective magnetic field. Even if we manage to create shelters on Mars, we'll have to spend most of our time there in enclosed spaces. But living in a greenhouse on Mars might be safer than it seems. Radiation on Mars is 3 times less than on Earth, as the planet's surface is protected from cosmic radiation by a layer of frozen carbon dioxide. But the main problem is that on Mars, ultraviolet radiation is 40 times stronger than on Earth. That's why it's extremely important to wear special suits while on the surface of Mars. But don't worry, according to NASA, in the future, scientists plan to grow plants on Mars so humans will have oxygen to breathe. Another problem is the low gravity on Mars, which is 3 times weaker than on Earth. Weak gravity means that our muscles and bones will weaken. To prevent this from happening, astronauts will have to do sports. What Mars sounds like, NASA's actual recording. NASA shared a creepy sound from the surface of Mars. You might think it's wind blowing through a canyon, but that's not true. NASA made a recording using the InSight probe. It was specifically designed to study the interior of the red planet. So this unusual sound is the real voice of Mars. Of course, the probe's microphone wasn't originally intended to record sounds on the planet's surface. It just so happened that it picked up a low-pitched hum at a frequency of 2 to 3 hertz. By the way, if you want to hear it, listen carefully. Why is Mars red? The surprising science. You probably remember the cartoon about a brave little tailor who went to the red planet to save his friend S-Sun. And when he got there, the aliens told him that they were painting the planet red to attract attention. But the real reason why Mars is red is quite different. Scientists believe that Mars was once a very hot planet and its surface was covered with flowing water. However, over time, the activity of its core slowed down and the planet lost its magnetic field. As a result, the sun's rays began to erode the atmosphere of Mars and strip it of oxygen. Most of the oxygen combined with iron, nickel, and other metals, creating a rust-like coating on rocks. Rust gives Mars its distinctive red color. Mars vs Earth. What's the real difference? First of all, the size of Mars and Earth is very different. Mars is twice as small as our planet, so its gravitational pull is much weaker. It's also worth noting that the core of Mars is smaller than that of Earth, which means that the planet's internal energy is lower. It's likely that millions of years ago, Mars was more like Earth, but due to its small size, it quickly lost its heat, turned cold, and became lifeless. Although according to some reports, scientists have found evidence of the existence of water on Mars, but so far they haven't found any forms of life. 5 shocking facts about Mars you never knew. Did you know that on Mars, 2 moons, Phobos and Deimos, are much closer to the planet than our moon is to Earth? These 2 satellites of Mars are only 6,000 miles from the planet. For comparison, the distance from Earth to the moon is 34,000 miles. One Martian day lasts 2 hours longer than Earth's day. A year on Mars is also longer than on Earth. It's 687 Earth days long. According to NASA, Mars has a lot of frozen water. In total, it contains more than 1.3 million cubic kilometers of water. At the same time, the volume of all the water in the oceans on Earth is 1.33 billion cubic kilometers. So Mars is 1,000 times poorer in water than our planet. And finally, Mars has no liquid water. It's all frozen or in the form of ice crystals in the atmosphere. Could you jump higher on Mars? Try this test. If you decide to test your jumping skills on Mars, you'll be very surprised. And to be honest, you won't jump higher. The force of gravity on Mars is only 3.7 meters per second squared compared to 9.8 meters per second squared on Earth. Therefore, if you try to jump on Mars, you'll fall back to the ground very quickly. But there's one thing that will make you jump higher. It's your weight. It'll be 6 times lighter than on Earth. In other words, if you weigh 150 pounds on Earth, on Mars you'll only weigh 25 pounds. Of course, if you have the opportunity to train for a couple of years in zero gravity, you can easily jump as high as 3 feet on Mars. Mars colonization plan, Elon Musk's crazy vision. The head of SpaceX wants to colonize Mars as soon as possible and create a million-strong city there. Musk believes that people need to become a spacefaring civilization. Otherwise, we could go extinct due to a comet or a supernova explosion. That's why he's making the Starship reusable rocket. It's designed to transport both people and cargo to Mars. When the first batch of colonists arrives on Mars, they'll be greeted by a self-sustaining city complete with all the amenities. Musk envisions that there will be hospitals, shops, schools, cafes, entertainment venues, and even Wi-Fi on the Red Planet. Also, to make life on Mars more enjoyable, the company plans to build underground houses out of the planet's regolith, which is a mixture of dust, rock, and other materials. Moreover, according to Musk, in the future, a journey to Mars will cost the same as a trip to Hawaii. And that's all for today. Now you know almost everything about Mars. Which fact surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like the video. Goodbye.